I guess I better go ahead and do this because this is another night of bad streaming and I know it's late. Might as well just do some videos that would probably not be entertaining at all. And God knows this is not going to be a fun show because a lot of it has to do with the fact that a lot of people don't like some of my content. So I might as well just do some things that are going on, considering that a lot of people are talking about the Patreon controversy, and a lot of it has to do with crowdfunding platform Patreon defends itself from protests by intellectual dark web. Let me say this. Intellectual dark web publishes slur-filled posts from banned YouTuber. Now, this is what it says. Crowdfunding website Patreon publishes transcripts from YouTube conversation with band member Carl Benjamin, showing him, and he's Sargon of Akkad, by the way. The transcripts allowed the company to defend itself from brewing boycott of a platform from members who have accused of booting Benjamin based on political bias. The evidence itself of the boycott from high-profile members of the intellectual dark web is in different light. Now, the crowdfunding platform Patreon sought to defend itself Monday night amid the brewing controversy among users in Patreon and the website who were calling for a boycott following the ban of a popular anti-feminist YouTuber Carl Benjamin, aka Sargon of Akkad, seeking further justifying ban Benjamin, which users are boycotting the platform claimed that it was biased politics. Patreon publisher transcripts of the video, and it said the company's decision on it. Patreon said in the segment fit the definition of hate speech. He was referring, and I understood this was pretty much a big deal. He was referring to the fact that he was referring to the alt-right, calling them the N-word, which was kind of funny, and they took that literally seriously. And this is the truth. He said this in his own words. I can't just bother with people who choose to treat me like this. It's really annoying. Like beep, and you're acting like a bunch of niggers. Just so you know. You act like a bunch of white, exactly how you're describing black people acting like impressions. I get dealing with the alt-right. Look, and he refers to it as the alt-right, and yet he gets into trouble with Patreon over referring the alt-right as a bunch of N-words. And they called it hate speech for a reason. Now, I don't know if that's reverse. I guess there's something called reverse racism there, but I don't know. A lot of people have been talking about this, and I had to look into observable behavior, what he says, manifest observable behavior, and I actually had to look into a group, for example, Antifa, Patreon. Now, there's a lot of groups. What's the big deal with using Patreon to fund violent? Now, a lot of people brought this question up about what Antifa groups are using Patreon to fund violent insurgents against America. Now, this was brought up according to Patreon creators like Laura Loomer, Sargon of Akkad, and this was brought up. And Proud Boys violate the terms of service. But Antifa creators that plot violent insurrections against the United States are A-OK, which researchers Watchdog group Far Left Watch shows the groups who openly call for violence and violent of the site community guidelines are being removed if they are of the far left-wing political spectrum. The two most glaring cases from the far left podcast titled Revolutionary Left Radio and Guillotine Podcast, both podcasts support political violence in pursuit of communist revolution. The trending shutdown. Now, Revolution Left Radio, it has over $700 monthly donors, giving it between $1 to $100 each. But but the show host Brett Anderson, who goes by moniker Breha Osha, has a criminal record stemming from a clash with police during pro-Trump rally in 2017. He also advocated of armed confrontation against those who has the ideological disagreements with him. I like my working class like I like my anti-fascism armed with a militant. Now, in his tweet, he expresses his desire to kill anyone he considers fascist, which Trump is considered by those in Antifa. This is what's going on. Fuck it. I identify as a militant revolutionary communist who wants to put every fascist in the world against the wall and violently exploit the wealth and property of the owning class. I hope it catches on. Haha. Revolutionary Left Radio. Notice how the main gripe is over wealth and property and owning class. The author of the tweet is clearly conflating capitalism with fascism, which is common to those on the radical left. Revolutionary Left Radio is greatly admired the murderous dictator Mao Zedong for his violent agenda. A revolution is not a dinner party or writing an essay. It's painting a picture. It cannot be redefined leisurely or gentle. So temperature, kind, and restraining a revolution is insurrection, to act of violence, which is the class overthrows another. Mao. Revolutionary Left Radio. The podcast, which hosts Patreon, still allows their further fundraising platforms, also appears to praise the New People's Army, a foreign terrorism organization in response to the deaths of hundreds of civilians. According to... Now, let's see here. Dead Irish Rebel. Okay. In the meantime, the underground activity, yeah. So, they're willing to let people do violent things while Sargon says the N-word, which pretty much is a word that affects everyone. But these people have a history of violence, and you let these groups on Patreon stay on there for a reason to start violence. I understand that there's like two sides of the story to where people point out about the violence that they do. Now, this is becoming a problem, and I want to point out something. There's a guy on YouTube who's called Airline World and More, and he had an argument with a group of Antifa members. They had a conversation, and it started off, and of course, you may notice that in this video, he has recorded them.
Video was information that I got from herself from the video, and then what else the media had put into their articles. That's where I got my information from.
We don't want to fucking hear from you. Get the fuck away from us. We don't want to fucking hear from you. We got nothing to fucking say to you. Get the fuck away from our march. We don't want anything to do with you. You're a fucking fash. We don't fucking need you here.
No.
Get the fuck away from our march.
You're gonna make me?
We got no fucking use for you.
Make me.
Get the fuck away.
Was that your word?
You don't want me to make you. Trust me.
Oh, make me. Make me. Make me. Dude, fucking make me. I fucking goddamn dare you to make me move. Come on. What are you gonna do? What the fuck are you gonna do? You guys talk so much shit about me online. You ain't done shit yet. Do something.
Turn that fucking camera off. That camera.
No. He's good. But it's funny how you're gonna block his camera
behind fucking doxing.
It's funny.
The only reason you're talking all that shit is because that camera's over there.
No.
If that camera wasn't there, I'd be knocking your ass the fuck out.
Don't worry about the camera. It seems like you can't see shit right now. Welcome to America, bitch.
We don't need you here, motherfucker.
Okay.
We don't fucking need you here.
Okay.
We don't have any fucking use for you. Get the fuck away from our march.
Okay, so
shut the fuck up. Nobody wants to hear a fucking word you have to say. Shut the fuck up.
No.
Shut the fuck up.
No.
Nobody fucking wants you here.
Nobody cares.
Nobody fucking wants you here.
I don't care. I don't fucking care.
I don't give a fuck what you care about.
Good. I don't care what you care about. A little pissy ass march. Shut
the fuck up.
Beach towel
Shut
sign.
the fuck up.
Yeah, let me explain the whole thing about what happened. There was two cameras, and Antifa tried to block those cameras, and there was a video of those two cameras popping up, and the two people who recorded this didn't, and of course Antifa didn't realize, from airline's perspective, the YouTube user, he wasn't trying to be mean to them, but he was trying to be nice and discuss with them the issue that he was trying to record the whole thing and what was going on, and with the live stream that he did of Antifa and all this other stuff that was going on, because he's well known on YouTube. He does a lot of stuff that happened, and what happened was he got attacked by this person in the video, and Antifa tried to mysteriously block the using the flags and everything that they had, and this is what happened in this whole situation.
Shut the fuck up!
No.
Shut the fuck up!
Make me.
Shut the fuck up!
Make me.
Fuck you!
Make me.
Fuck off!
No.
Now you see right here behind the camera right here, they were blocking the camera so that whoever he is or she tried to punch him, and you can see in this video, this is what the result of what happened.
No, I'm not. And it sucks to be you, because you're in America. If you don't like it, take your bags and leave the country. If you don't like it, you hate it so fucking much. That's the best you got. No. You see that right there? That's mine. Thanks, bro. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good.
Now you see, he didn't do the first shot. He or she did in that whole video, and that's called manifest observable behavior. Now, does this represent the whole group? No. The problem is that, considering that I'm doing what you might call in this live stream observable behavior, manifest observable behavior, we are the good guys in this show. We're gonna look at Antifa, and this is something that I'm trying to show you guys in this video. Are they the good guys for what they did to the guy in this whole situation? Well, considering the guy was nice enough to try to talk to one of the Antifa members and they seemed nice, the whole situation kind of escalated into a really bad situation with one of its members representing it as a whole, trying to ask him to leave. He didn't want to, and the problem is that he stood his ground. I got to give him props for that. He stood his ground and said, look, no, I'm not leaving, because he wanted to pass through. And what happened was they were trying to hide this on account that they tried to use the flags to block everything, thinking that they were smart, but they didn't realize the guy was recording this with his glasses on. And they thought that even though his friends around him were recording, they were using the flags to cover the whole thing to let him get hit. And of course, the guy got punched. The guy got punched, but he punched back and knocked that bitch down. That's what happens, and that's what I seen from the observable behavior of Antifa. They try to act like they're tough, but at the same time, when no one's looking, they try to sneak a hit into somebody. That's the type of tactics I've seen, and why does this happen? I don't know. But talking about being the good guys, you rely on dirty tactics in order to maintain that you're the good guys, because you want to fight fascism. You realize not everyone's a fascist. Everyone's a human being. And the sad part is that why can't people be treated like human beings for once? Instead, you look down upon them and call them fascists. And that's the problem. And here's some interesting videos that you might see that are popping up on the internet that are so funny. And it's just really ridiculous. Now here's another one. I have a body cam.
They're asking about me, where I'm at. Because I don't have to.
Well, they don't play about it. Fucking need you here.
Okay,
we don't have any fucking use.
Yeah. You're gonna see two camera angles from this one.
No. You see that right there? That's mine. Thanks, bro. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. And you see this GoPro? It's been running the entire time. So guess who's going to jail?
Now you can see right here in this second angle.
Knock it off!
You can see right here, black dude knocks him down.
You okay, Jimmy? No, she swung first. I got on video.
GoPro, it's been running the entire time. So guess who's going to jail?
Yep.
Call the cops.
Get in fucking car. Camera.
Going to jail.
Yeah.
Give me a camera, come on! Get it! You're going to jail. You're going to jail. You're going to jail.
All right.
Call the cops.
Get in fucking car. Camera.
Going to jail.
Don't come around.
Give me a camera, come on! Get it! You're going to jail. You're going to jail. You're going to jail.
Are you working with them?
Yo! Yo! Yo!
Punch me. Got on video. He is so
This guy right here in the blonde just punched me in the face.
Took him down to the ground.
Don't believe this person.
We got it on camera, so.
My camera has been running. You want to honestly, you want to sit there and lie to the police officer? My camera has been running the entire time.
He just attacked her.
Who's involved?
Me and this individual right here.
Which individual?
Right here, this Stewie shirt.
Female?
Yeah.
Okay. What's everybody's name?
Now you can see right here, these were the injuries. Now I haven't pressed charges. Portland police took the report from me and others involved. Thankfully, no one other damage and injury came to me or my equipment. Now you can see right here, the only thing that he got injured was his knee, was his leg, and that was pretty much it. Now there was two angles of it. Now you see right here, this is the front angle, but there was two angles to the camera, and I remember seeing some of the stuff that happened. Now, and it's sort of ridiculous because this is becoming one of those situations where people are fighting each other in the streets for no apparent reason other than to get pissed off at people. And this is by a username by Tenfold who saw this. Alright, let's see here. Private. Now, let's see. Yeah, Mr. Random Cam Barrett, the Boys Repulsion. Now, I'm going to have to play that off because this is the stuff that's been happening. You see that? Now this is Antifa trying to come around. Turn on your cameras on. Yeah, this is pretty funny. Reasons to don't, nor the bins and dumpsters feel shame. We see they piss on the leaves, don't fear Antifa. They shit on the bed, don't fear Antifa. We could occupy. This is funny. And this is the type of stuff that's going on. And this is observable behavior of what they do on Twitter and on YouTube. They'll storm the Pentagon. Unless they get punched. Together, Boldy locks in the senior bikes. 400,000 redefine hate. 4,000 jihadists every day. We can see. This is funny. And this is what's going on. This is what they're doing. This is what people are dealing with, because people are living in fear in America every day, hoping to change the world, hoping to do something, but at the same time, you know, they make terrible choices in life. We all live in a world where we make terrible choices in life, and a lot of those choices tend to affect a lot of reasons. It's so funny too. Now, is this what people should be representing? I understand that fascism is a problem in the world, but Jesus Christ. And it's so funny though. Like, this is a parody song that they're trying to do. Let's see. Now, the difference between, and it's harder to bring up the issues about Antifa and Black Bloc. Spain, Black Bloc protest brings Madrid in standstill. Clash with Occupy movement. France's anarchist clash inside violent anarchist group Antifa. Let's see here. Counter-protest organized defense actions against... Okay. Now, let's see here. Now, let's go ahead and look back at this. Let's look at this, because there's a lot of things that are going on. Observable behavior. Even though I don't like it, let's do it. Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter! capitalism. Black bloc protesters first emerged in the United States during the anti-war demonstrations in San Francisco in 2000. They have been blamed for violence during the protests of Oakland over corporate power and policies. Black bloc protesters broke windows and vandalized banks, torched windows during President Trump's inauguration ceremony in January. The same group assaulted Trump supporters, tore down police barricades, broke down, started fires in UC Berkeley campus. The term Black Bloc was first used to describe the Black Cat protesters with helmets and masks who appeared in the streets demonstrating Germany in the 1970s. And this was Antifa. Are also anarchists. And anarchists are not evil technically, as they say. But this is the type of problems that people are dealing with every day, and this is something that.
Rage and resolve, displays of force. Protest politics in the U.S. have changed, and not just on the right. In late August in Berkeley, California, images of violence against right-wing demonstrators earned the black-clad Antifa a surge of notoriety. Across the political spectrum, revulsion. Berkeley's mayor, a Democrat, called for a crackdown.
I think we should classify them as a gang. You know, they come dressed in uniforms, they have weapons, they're almost a militia. And I think we need to think about that in terms of our law enforcement approach.
I think there's blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt about it either.
Donald Trump has equated the left-wing Antifa with the violent far right, saying it shares the blame for the fatal violence in Charlottesville, Virginia.
You know, they show up in the helmets and the black masks, and they've got clubs and they've got everything. Antifa!
But today's Antifa is in part a product of the Trump era.
Antifa, in its very literal sense, really means anti-fascism. So my name is Will Carlos. I'm a correspondent with Reveal from the Center for Investigative Reporting, and I cover extremism in America, and I've actually been covering the Antifa movement, the rise of the Antifa movement, for several months now. What we're seeing today with the discussion in the left about whether or not to embrace this movement, whether or not to denounce this violence, is something that's happened time and time and time again in the history of anti-fascism. Antifa has a very long history going back to the 1920s and 1930s in Europe. Right at the birth of fascism, there were groups of thousands of people who organized to sort of fight the birth of fascism.
It rose again in the 1980s and early 90s in North America, including in Canada, as anti-racism groups responded to neo-Nazis. After that, Antifa largely receded into the background.
And then it sort of starts to come back, I think it's fair to say, with really the election of Donald Trump.
You can't have anti-fascists without fascists. And while Donald Trump disavows the far right, since his rise, it has become more visible and active.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit.
And sometimes confronting.
In February of 2016, the Ku Klux Klan was going to march in Orange County, and we haven't seen Klan activity of that kind in coastal Southern California in many years. So I went to that rally to take stock, to do some interviews, do some research, but it didn't quite go as planned. It's done! Get away! 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 Get away from this gentleman! So when the Grand Dragon fell to the ground and was descended upon with kicks to the head and various weapons, in a split second, I saw that nobody was going to help him, and it was either that or have his life significantly at risk. Sir, don't hurt him! Don't hurt him!
It made him an unlikely hero for a neo-Nazi website.
Yes, the Daily Stormer labeled me the Jewish Batman.
For Brian Levin, the link between Trump and political violence is crystal clear.
I'm not saying that President Trump is a dyed-in-the-wool racist. I don't know what's in his heart. But what I will say his charisma, his notoriety, and his messaging was one where folks on that fringe extreme felt that even if they couldn't get into the opera house, had someone who would at least play some of their sheet music.
David Duke endorsed me? Okay. All right. I disavow, okay?
We're going to fulfill the promises of Donald Trump. That's what we believed in. That's why we voted for Donald Trump.
Bottom line is, we have a normalization of political violence which preceded candidate and President Trump, but his accession as a charismatic, very widely known leader has amped it up to a level that we haven't seen in decades.
U.S. government data reveal a long record of homicides inspired by far-right extremism. 106 people died in 62 attacks from 2001 to the end of 2016. Far-left groups over that same period caused no fatalities.
We are going to start history all over again.
A new generation on the far right is eager to shed its extremist image, often disavowing violence, packaging racist ideology in new terminology, in an attempt to enter as far into the mainstream as possible.
The most radical thing for anyone to say is, I am white. My life has meaning.
Messaging has become more blurred, where hate groups are communicating to me saying, we're identitarians, we're not supremacists. But the bottom line is, it's the same cornflakes in a different box.
Yeah, I understand it looks like a Nazi outfit, but I mean, you can say a lot about the Nazis, but they look pretty good.
For the more politically savvy far right, the Antifa serves as a boogeyman, invoked for unity and leveraged for sympathy.
We will not allow leftist, militant activist organizations like Antifa go to these kind of events and hinder our constitutional right to free speech and assembly.
But among activists on the left, its prominence is new.
At the early parts of this year, really the only way that Antifa was being talked about in any significant sense was it was being defined by the far right. It was very difficult to find anybody who would proactively sort of go on record as saying, I am Antifa, and because at that point it was being so defined by the far right. Then Charlottesville happened.
Our streets! Our streets!
Yeah, and then I saw what happened here. I remember what happened here, that it caused a really big mess with a bunch of people with tiki torches. I didn't agree with this idea. And this caused a really big spitfire that made Antifa either liked or disliked in both sides of the spectrum of political history. Now, I remember when this all happened, I saw the videos of what happened. They beat up a person. They punched that person in the face, and it started a really big mess. And regrettably, this caused a lot of problems and a lot of anger and a lot of issues that I just hated.
Charlottesville was really a seminal moment for America's far right. It was seen very much as a show of force.
And you can see right here, they beat up that person in the video who was merely just protesting that they wanted to take down a Confederate statue. And it got to the point that they took down the Confederate statues. It was the most sad thing in history that happened.
We know a lot about the planning, funnily enough, because they were doing, most of the organizers were doing the planning on an app that was actually developed for gamers. And there was a leak. Not only was there planning in terms of militancy, but there was a whole lot of planning in terms of, we want to make sure that we put our best face forward. Considering the pictures we've all seen coming out of Charlottesville of the people marching and chanting things like blood and soil and doing Hitler salutes and all the rest of it, the organizers very much wanted to steer away from that in the weeks before. They were telling people not to do exactly those things. Nevertheless, it happened. What was also very high on the organizers' minds was trying to make the other side, the Antifa, the far left people, look as bad as possible.
And you heard this right, ladies and gentlemen. This is how Antifa looked very bad in the eyes of the world. In a way, they kind of went after people left and right. They didn't try to commit violence. They were, right now, you know, what people don't realize is that there has been a lot of issues. Like right now, they're using the Mahatma Gandhi tactic, and it's working. And the problem is that if people don't know who Mahatma Gandhi is, he was a peaceful person who believed in the independence of India. And basically, right now, the white nationalists are using those tactics to make themselves look like victims. And to the point that it doesn't look good for Antifa. And this is the problem in this whole situation with what Antifa is and what they're trying to represent as a whole. And looking at what they're doing, they're failing America. They are failing this whole country, basically acting stupid. They don't want to help. They basically want to commit violence. And by showing, and right now, this is the type of stuff that's happening right now in America. You're letting white nationalists win by attacking them. They know that. And that's the problem with Antifa as a group. They're committing violence to show that they don't care about their fellow man, and that's the problem, and that's why people voted for Trump. This is the type of problems that happens. And this is the reason why Antifa is not well liked. Not even close to well liked. They think they know better. And right now, the white nationalists are using Mahatma Gandhi's tactics. Whether you think that your words matter, your violence against fascists, punching Nazis, and all this other stuff matters, you're making them sound reasonable. Because what you're doing is like destroying public property, attacking people, attacking old people, for Christ's sakes. It's making you look like nutcases that are causing a problem. If you guys would have just not do violence and said, hey, I don't agree with your ideas, therefore you should say that. But the problem is, you're punching people, you're violently attacking people, not even trying to reason with people. You're becoming the fascist monster. Do you realize that? As a person, do you realize what you're doing? They're resorting to using Mahatma Gandhi tactics, which Mahatma Gandhi has used it. Don't use violence. Let them attack you so the world will know what's going on. That's what they're doing. That's what they're trying to do. To make themselves look good. If you guys would have never attacked them and not spill blood or beat old people up and wasting your time and energy doing that stuff, you could have just said something. But instead, no. You don't fix the problems, you just start them. And that's the biggest problem in America. You guys destroyed a limo that's owned by some Arab guy, expecting, oh, that's capitalism and all this other stuff. No, that's a guy who works, who lives in that limo, who does nothing but work because he doesn't have a home to go to. And you destroyed that limo, not even thinking about that because you don't care. Not realizing the consequences of your own actions, you're affecting change by making the white nationalists win. That's the problem. And that's the issue that you guys are failing in America for. You think you can change it by calling everyone a fascist, calling everyone a racist, calling everyone this and this and this, expecting change to come easily, not without a fight. And you're doing most of the fighting by beating up people, making them all go bleed to death. That's the problem. You're not creating change, you're creating chaos. And it doesn't help.
As a PR exercise for the far right, it was a disaster. The country watched the largest gathering of the far right in years dissolve into chaos. The air thick with the menace of violence, even before the attack on protesters that killed Heather Heyer.
And I remembered this incident. And I recalled that the mother in question, who was the mother that lost the daughter in this runaround, it turns out she died of a heart attack. Because what happened was she got hit and was scared to death, thus it caused her a heart attack. If she would have never panicked, she would have lived today. And what happened was she got hit by the car, but she just panicked and had a heart attack. And I remember recalling that the mother in question said that she died of a heart attack when the car hit her. Because the lady got scared, and I knew this was going to happen. I remember a news report about this, that the lady in question mentioned that her daughter died of a heart attack, and that guy who was in that car ran her over, even though she could have survived, but instead, you know, it didn't happen.
Suddenly, Antifa's tactics took on a new currency.
So I've literally got interviews that I recorded with people in June where we're talking about Antifa and they're sort of shying away from it. And then I talked to them again post-Charlottesville and they're proudly waving the banner of Antifa.
A broad range of activists now associate with the movement, employing a range of tactics.
And among its reach are, I think, sincere folks, oftentimes young people, who dox and who loudly confront and will hold their turf, but are very defensive in regard to when they think violence is acceptable.
And then you've got a smaller faction of the Antifa, which are the sort of the real militants, and they're the people who are these days who are talking about actually proactively going out and searching for what they call Nazis or white supremacists.
After this summer, voices who believe violence is justified have just grown louder.
Yeah. They went after Milo Yiannopoulos, who happens to be a news reporter. And I thought it was kind of funny, though. True story, he's married to a black man. He sucks black dick. No joke. And the funny thing is they called him a racist. They called him this. They called him a Nazi just because he believes in far-right politics. but not in the way that you guys would believe. But the thing is that they went all the way, and I actually remembered some of the interviews that were made about this guy. They actually believe some of the stuff that were said around Milo Yiannopoulos. They didn't know he was gay. They didn't know he had a relationship with a black man. They didn't know. They didn't care. They were more brainwashed than I could expect it to be, because they had no information. They were in a group of people, like, they didn't want to listen to reason. Even if you give them the information about Milo Yiannopoulos, are you aware that this man's gay? Are you aware that this... They probably would say, no, I never realized he was. This is the type of issues that Antifa is. They are pretty much in their own little echo chamber. And that's what most people see in them, is that even... The problem with this whole situation, it's pretty bad. Seeing this group and observing their behavior and everything, they have no idea what they're doing. They pretty much are failing in this whole situation. Even though they had some successes and some victories, it doesn't change the fact that this group is failing to reach out to the people about these issues that they're concerned about.
Is BAM committed to being peaceful?
BAM is committed to making sure that we can protect this community.
So is that a no then?
So in Charlottesville, pacifism did not stop the fascists.
Armed militias on the right are a frequent sight at protests. Elements on the left are building their own arsenal.
And we are actually seeing chapters of particular groups who are about being an anarchist or anti-fascist hard left militia. People like the John Brown Gun Club and Redneck Revolt, for instance. It's an escalating arms race, and it's worrisome. Fasten your seatbelts.
Every rally, every political gathering is charged with tension, adrenaline. Tempers flare.
2 Trump supporters now being escorted out of the Boston Common. I just spoke to them a few moments ago. They thought everything would be fine, but suddenly, there they go. Hey, are you okay? What's your name?
With each side on a hair trigger and no leader really in control.
I'm frankly amazed that the alt-right and Antifa haven't started shooting each other yet. I'm amazed. I mean, sitting here today, I mean, the number, the amount of anger, the amount of violence going on, the number of guns.
In a matter of months, democracy for some has already started looking a lot like war. The question now is how thin the line becomes and how many choose.
Yeah, and it's becoming a really big problem of division. And that's the problem here that I see. It's a great division, a great divided line between two sides. And I hate it. I hate it. Because it really tears people apart to the point that we used to be civil. We used to always love, I used to always love going out with my family to have ice cream. Now it's kind of like, nah, you can't do that anymore. It's sort of why a lot of people are not happy with what's going on in America right now. And a lot of us don't really care about what's going on. Especially if you meet the Proud Boys. Let's look at the Proud Boys and see what that's all about.
I'm a Western chauvinist, and I refuse to apologize for creating a modern world.
Chauvinist doesn't mean sexist. Chauvinist means extremely patriotic.
Things that will save America: give everyone a gun, venerate the housewife, recognize the West is the best, shut down the government.
We like President Trump. Political correctness is just another word for censorship. Gender pay gap's a myth. Islam is not a very good ideology, and we're allowed to criticize it.
being a man is almost frowned upon.
We're all different races and even sexual orientations. I mean, Maurice right here is gay.
Violence can solve problems.
Yeah, fighting solves everything.
They're playing into a long line of what would be normally called white nationalism.
The soy boy fucking generation has overtaken, and there is no alpha. The alpha is diminished.
So I wouldn't call it a war between the sexes. There's a war by men on women.
Most guys my age are just basically interested in sitting at home, masturbating, eating Cheerios, and playing video games, smoking weed, trying to avoid responsibility at all costs. I think that most of the problems we have in the country are because men aren't stepping up and doing the things that they've done forever, being providers, being strong, being manly.
These guys are members of the Proud Boys. Some people may watch this film and be offended. Others will think there's value in hearing their views.
The Proud Boys is just a fraternity, basically, and what I would like to call it is an alpha male support group.
Man, let's see it. I'm proud of your boy. Awesome. We're getting in here, baby. Good job. Third degree, buddy. Man. Looks good.
The one thing that the Proud Boy stands for is making men as confident and manly and successful as possible, and holding them to the standard of being the strong male providers that men have been since the beginning of time.
Reclaiming manhood is one of the central pillars of Proud Boyism. They believe masculinity is in danger, and they're not alone. The past year has seen a seismic shift in gender politics. And despite this, or perhaps because of it, Proud Boy membership has exploded. Now they even have chapters in Australia. But I'm here in Texas to try and understand why alpha males need a support group.
As a fraternity, we recognize that there's a role for men, and there's a men's role that men should assume. And right now, most men aren't assuming the role of what a man should be.
Hey, no, sit.
They believe family is foremost. Men should be the breadwinners, and that women shouldn't have to work.
You shot this?
Yeah, I shot that.
Over freshly shot deer burgers seems as good a time as any to talk about another of the Proud Boy rules, the masturbation ban.
If you just sit at home and have that kind of instant gratification, you don't have to cultivate yourself into someone that somebody wants to have sex with.
Masturbation is...
Okay. They don't masturbate. Keep this in mind, they don't masturbate at all. This is what the Proud Boys don't do. If they do get caught masturbating, they're out. Keep that in mind. This group of people don't masturbate at all. If they do, they're out of the Proud Boys. They banned all hand jobs unless you're having sex with your wife or your girlfriend. That's how it works.
Is lack of impulse control. So if you can control your impulses, then you can control and regulate most aspects of your life.
The Proud Boys were formed in 2016, and that year's presidential election galvanized them.
When you see the rise of the Proud Boys, when you see the rise of a candidate like Donald Trump, you might say they're both symptoms of the same problem. People are fed up with what they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. People felt marginalized and threatened by the PC culture.
When it comes to gender equality, the World Economic Forum ranks America 49th, behind the likes of Rwanda and Bolivia. But the Proud Boys say men and women already have equality in Western countries, and that PC culture and feminism has put their way of life under attack.
Being a man is almost frowned upon because of this third wave feminism movement. There was once a true feminism movement when women really didn't have the same rights as men. That, in my opinion, is that's a valid cause. You know, well, why shouldn't women have the same rights as men? I can't justify third wave feminism in America because I don't think America needs feminism. What rights are people fighting for? You know, what rights do they not already have? Places like the Middle East need feminism.
But the idea that it's all good for women in the West does seem at odds with the millions of American women speaking out about sexual harassment using the Me Too hashtag.
What do you think of the Me Too movement?
Shinerbach, one of my favorite beers that I like. I'm sorry if I have to bring this up, but there is a lot of things that go on in this whole thing, and I thought it's hilarious that people bring these up. This is the Proud Boys are pretty much a group of people who, yeah, they are anti-feminists. Yeah, they don't like PC culture in general, but this is kind of the thing that's going on around America right now between two sides of the coin. And observable behavior of Antifa and Proud Boys, it's becoming a big problem between both sides. And Jack, I'm just pointing this out to you. This is not going to fix anything, what you're doing.
I believe the men. I think that there's definitely some cases where there's been some abuse, but I think the extent of it has been exaggerated. I'm an attorney. I see it in my line of work every day. I don't believe that women automatically have a right to be believed just because of the fact that they're women.
I think that it takes away from real victims, that women who haven't really experienced true sexual harassment or, you know, true abuse are clinging on to this movement because it's a very popular thing.
And this attitude does beg the question, when does chauvinism cross the line and become misogyny?
Are the Proud Boys sexist? Of course not. I mean, we're pro-male, and I think we're pro-female. Absolutely, I think the Proud Boys is pro-female. I think the goal is to strive to cultivate yourself.
No. I'll be honest with you guys, they are pro sex worker, sort of, in a way. But this is something that I heard about, because they do tend to buy porn.
To be a person who's successful that can provide for your wife, so if she wants to stay at home, she has that decision. But I don't think that we have a narrow dogmatic view of women. I think that sometimes perhaps we'd get a bad rap on that.
1, 2, 3, go.
Initiation to this group includes getting a tattoo and being punched while listing off the names of breakfast cereals.
Breakfast
The
cereals.
ultimate Proud Boy badge of honor is to be involved in a physical conflict related to the cause, but the group denies this. Nevertheless, violence has often been caught on camera. Like these clashes with their left-wing opponents, the anti-fascist group Antifa, which has itself been labelled a domestic terrorist group by US Homeland Security. It all gets pretty ugly, and I have to wonder.
Yeah. According to Homeland Security, Antifa is considered a terrorist group. Now, I'm going to show you something. The International Anti-Fascist Defense Fund. And this is Antifa's anti-defense fund by 85 Patreons. Now you can see right here, their Patreon is right there. Third high quality Vic Sixers available for 6 different designs. And all they got are stickers. Now I'm going to show you guys something about the rules here. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you the rules that they had in Antifa. That this is something I'm going to show you. Oops, sorry. Guess I better put the Pornhub stuff up there. Yeah, I do go to Pornhub. Go figure. Okay, let's go ahead and do this. The community guidelines. Now I'm going to go ahead and do something here. Harmful and illegal, harmful legal activities. Self-harm, let's see here. Spam, adult content, hate speech, bullying and threats. Now I have to look at this and see what's going on here. Dangerous activities, spam, doxing, self-harm. People, dangerous organizations. It's under dangerous organizations. People with dangerous criminal or history or known to affiliations with violent or dangerous groups, including terrorist groups and cyber terrorist organizations, organized criminal groups, and violent hate groups, cannot receive funds through Patreon. Now, what is this doing here? And there are evidence of them being violent towards people. Now, explain to me, Patreon, why is it that they're considered a dangerous organization who has committed violence, who has destroyed public property on Patreon? Jack, let me ask you something, Jack. Why are they on Patreon? Since Sargon of Akkad got banned for saying the N-word, I want to know why Antifa is on here. That is the question I would like to know. They're the good guys, but all I'm seeing them do is commit violence, destroy public property. And that's what bothers me about this whole situation with what's going on by observable behavior, as you call it. When people try to point this out to you as a company, you ignore it, but yet you continuously let them continue being funded when they continuously commit atrocious things to people. Is it right or is it wrong? Think about it, Jack. Because I'm just pointing this out to you because you obviously are not convinced enough about what they're doing. Now I'm just going to continue on with the Proud Boys, considering they got kicked out of Patreon for doing what they do.
What do their mums think of all this?
What changes have you seen in him since he joined the Proud Boys?
He's changed by overall just, I think he's always kind of been this way, but I think this has brought, the introvert has gone, and it's brought forward a more vocal, a stronger man. So I think it's really helped him. I can tell a big difference since he's joined.
Do you think it can be difficult to be a man in 2018?
Oh, absolutely.
Why is that?
Because God created men to be leaders and women to be women. I am here to help meet my husband's, what he cannot do, I pick up the slack and do because he's making a living. And I think the men nowadays, it seems like the roles have changed. Oh my goodness.
Whilst Diane enjoys the fraternity and friendship her son gets from the Proud Boys, I can't help but think she'd have trouble getting through an episode of this guy's show.
You don't need to cut your dick off. You're not a different gender. With free love and bra burning, we got tons of sex and jiggly tits. You're a fat woman, and you're fat for one reason. You burn less calories than you take in.
Here comes that girl again. What I do it since I don't know when.
Oh,
but
God.
she don't notice me when I'm there.
G'day!
This is Gavin McInnes, founder of the Proud.
Yes, the founder of the Proud Boys, and also a very good asshole. For those who don't know, he also masturbates to anime. Most of you don't realize he has been very good at what he does. Therefore, you must realize he also tries to promote big anime titties.
How you doing? I'm great. This is it. You got here fast.
Gavin's also a co-founder of Vice Media. He parted with the company 10 years ago, citing creative differences. He's now a conservative media personality and comedian. And today, Gavin is...
He also does porno.
Recording his show, Get Off My Lawn.
Feminism really uglifies even the hottest of pop stars. So the irony here is that I'm an egalitarian, I'm an anti-racist, I'm a pro-gay, pro-women's rights individual, the same punk rocker I was when I was 18, but now the Nazi skinheads I'm fighting are you social justice warriors. I think being a man requires 4 things. You have to have broken a heart, you have to break someone's heart, you have to beat the shit out of someone, and you have to have the shit beaten out of you. The plight of the Western male is, right now, there's a war on masculinity going on in the West, and it starts in kindergarten, where children are punished for being rambunctious, boys are punished, and seen.
He says this war was started by the same people who perpetuate myths like the gender pay gap.
Women, before they have kids, they make more money than men.
How so?
They generate more income. They have a higher average salary than men do at that age. Then they have kids, and then their priorities change, and they'd rather be at home with the kids because it's better at home.
Let me point out something now. The years have changed over the years. Now, I'm going to point out something. I'm going to point out this whole thing right now. The truth is, the gender pay gap isn't that bad. I'm going to show you why. Because the gender pay gap isn't that bad, as you might as well know. But it's kind of sad that they did this to this woman. Yeah, let me see if I can do something here. Amaranth. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Amaranth. Now, for those who don't know Amaranth, she's a streamer. And she's a very attractive woman. Now, a lot of you don't know, she's getting paid a lot of money. And I mean a lot of money. She has a lot of Patreon users. She has, if you pay $1, special thanks to supporting me while I transitioned in creating content and cosplay streaming videos full time. This is exciting and uncharted territory for me. Now, Silver, thank you for supporting me. For $10, you're amazing and I love you. Naughty Snapchat for the duration of your pledge. Discord access, chat daily with me and my community. Veteran rewards, 6 months of continuous support. Get Snapchat for life. Now, if you pay $60, I'll give you guys this thing. This is what she says. A bit more of the personal package for those of you who want to get to know me better. This includes everything in silver tiers plus daily sexy pictures. I post platinum tier exclusive lewds nearly every day on my Patreon wall. Some naughty MSR videos. Get all the videos in diamond tier. Access to Discord. Chat with me sometimes during stream or all the time while crafting, photo editing, and stream. Now, how much do you think she gets out of this? And okay, Veteran rewards, 4 months of continuous support. Get Snapchat for life. Diamond, that's $100. 5 newly not for safe undercovered videos every month. The minimum 1 per week. Sexy daily pics, access through Patreon wall. all the lewd, naughty MSR videos, one every month. Priority group hangouts. I schedule fit around your time. I follow you all on my social media platforms. After 3 months of continuous support, get Snapchat for life. Founder. That's right, $200. You think this is all just... She is banking. And it's not that bad. Women are right now doing this, making money, a lot of money on Patreon. Who do you think does this stuff? And I'll show you every woman who has a Patreon are banking a lot of money. Like, these women are doing a lot of things. As you can see, their business model works. They're getting money. They're not oppressed. This is not something that women do a lot, but they do it in order to make a living. And the gender pay gap no longer exists anymore because of this shit. So why the heck are people getting upset for? They're being paid money no matter what. Heck, let me go ahead and find... Yeah, this guy gets a lot of money. And this woman gets a lot of money. That's for sure. Now, does this look like anyone struggling? Is the struggle real? No. It isn't. A lot of girls do this just to make a living. And it's sort of what they do. So, okay. I guess I better continue on with the Proud Boy documentary.
With the kids, it's more natural. There's nothing wrong with that. Why are we discouraging it? But this idea that men get paid more than women is a lie. It's propaganda.
I read a statistic that only 16% of CEOs in this country are women.
Yes.
So that's unequal.
No. Not everyone has to be in a perfect pizza pie of representation. What about in sanitation? Women aren't equally represented in sanitation. Is that an example of sexism? No. Being a CEO of a company means 16-hour days. It is brutal. You're working your ass off. There's also almost unending conflict. It's being a brawler. It's being a street kid, basically. And you don't see your family. Women tend not to want that job.
The Father of Three's mix of comedy and conservatism is loved by some
Brown sugar!
and called hate speech by others.
Isn't it amazing that that's controversial? I'm a Western chauvinist. I think the Western culture is the best. I don't know. Do you prefer Middle Eastern culture where people fuck kids and throw gays off buildings? What about Mexican culture? How many beheadings were there today in Mexico?
Are the Proud Boys a hate group?
No. I would go farther than that. I would say hate groups don't really exist. You know, you find 35 nuts in Georgia going on a march, or Charlottesville, they managed to amass every single white nationalist in the entire country, and they get what, 150? I mean, that's statistically irrelevant. Trump is a white supremacist to that. It's funny, they say, you're a Nazi. And you go, what? That's who else is a Nazi? Everyone who voted for Trump. Oh, so like half the population? Yeah, okay. I mean, Nazi to them just means someone I don't agree with.
But there are those who say the Proud Boys are a hate group. Their opinions on Islam and participation at controversial rallies has put them on the radar of hate group watchdog, the Southern Poverty Law Center, or SPLC.
Hey, Dylan, pleasure to meet you.
Thank you, nice to meet you too. This is the SPLC?
Sure is.
Ryan Lenz is an SPLC spokesperson.
When Gavin McInnes and the rest of any other Proud Boy chapter president says that they're here to support Western chauvinism or Western identity, what they're doing is they're playing into a long line of what would be normally called white nationalism, this idea that the United States is justly inherited by white people and white people only.
They never say white, they say Western.
Right, see, but Western in many ways can be code word for white because what they're talking about is Europe. You know, the Europe and the United States.
I've met Proud Boys that are black, I've met Proud Boys that are born in other countries.
Does the fact that there's a couple of, black or Hispanic Proud Boys absolve, the organization from the arguments and the positions they're holding? No. I mean, I don't think it the fact that there's, and I would also argue that the Proud Boys are not as multicultural as that question seems to suppose. We call them a hate group. And we have the right to do so, just as they have the right to say that, that any other culture is laughable or whatever. I was a journalist for the Associated Press for a long time.
The SPLC has its origins in the civil rights movement and has a long history of fighting groups like the KKK. Its hate list has grown over recent years, as has its funding.
A hate group is an organization that seeks to vilify or demonize an entire class of people based on an immutable characteristic, something they can't change.
Critics of the SPLC say they've turned hate group identification into big business, and that they may be too quick to apply the label.
Why did the Proud Boys get on the Southern Poverty Law Center's hate group list?
I think the Proud Boys are listed because they make no mistake about their feelings regarding Muslims. You start talking about immigration, we need to keep the Muslims out because the Islamification of the United States is happening, which is not that far from what the Proud Boys argue. That's when it becomes an issue. Australia should be concerned that the Proud Boys are there because of what the Proud Boys represent. Because these ideas, and I say this with the absolute, complete amount of sincerity, these ideas, it's not a matter of if they'll lead to violence. It's just a matter of when.
I head to New Jersey, where Proud Boy media man Paul Bazile refutes the SPLC's claims.
Hey, SPLC, the biggest hate group in America, has called us a hate group. It's an ungoverned, unelected, self-appointed body of people who just basically put together a website and said, we get to determine who's a hate group now. I think Islam is filled with a lot of bad ideas. Christianity is filled with a lot of bad ideas. I think Buddhism has bad ideas too. The issue that people have is, for whatever reason, if you say Islam has bad ideas, that's off the table and taboo, and we can't even fairly criticize it because you're looked at as racist, Islamophobic, or whatever it might be, which is absolute nonsense. You're allowed to criticize any idea.
The Islamification of the USA is a concern for the Proud Boys and conservatives like them. They also want to build Trump's wall. It runs up against the idea of the US as a nation of immigrants. Even Paul is a descendant of Italian immigrants. But he draws a distinction.
You could look at that and go, well, isn't that immigration? My ancestors came here from Italy, right? After World War I.
Yeah.
And they settled in New York and New Jersey. And then they had kids. And then they sent those kids to go back to Italy to shoot Italians because they were Americans. You understand what I'm getting at? Like, that's the difference. How many of the people who jumped over the border in Texas would be happy to go back and fight a war with Mexico? You could ask them. If they went to war with Mexico, who would they be loyal to,
Hey, how's it going? Good to see you.
How's everything?
Great.
Get on the female side of the street. These are dreadful. I have an allergic reaction to cornball fucking shit like this. I hope everyone who's ever bought one of these is dead right now. Because it's not funny. It's not funny, and it takes itself too seriously while not being funny, while thinking it's amazingly funny. Exhale the bullshit. Like, I'm just so woke and amazing and expressive. I'm just exhaling your bullshit. Fuck off. Fuck you. Stop telling me things with your horseshit bag, lady.
Paul's friend Martina says the Proud Boys are bringing balance back to a society out of sync.
You need the patriarchy and you need the matriarchy in harmony, and trying to change what femininity is and trying to say that masculinity is all evil is not in harmony.
Do you really think men need to drink and fight and do everything that they do to prove their masculinity?
You know, I think maybe, yeah. I'm not a man, so it's like, do girls need to do their girly thing? Yeah, they kind of do.
Martina tells me suppressing masculinity and dismantling gender roles erodes the value of family.
It's not necessarily.
Yeah, and this is the biggest problem with with it. I don't believe in those sort of ideas about gender roles. I believe if you want to play that role, play the role. But if you can't play the role right, yeah, you don't belong in it. Same as me. If they feel that I don't belong in that role, they can easily kick me out of that role. And that's how it works. That's how it works on every side of the coin in the world. As much as I hate to say it, you know, this is the type of problems we see in America. And I guess I would say I'm going to have to probably delete this live stream and possibly not care, because not many people will watch this. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.